when we hear the gospel and we receive it, I just want to tell you that it's probably started, and if it hasn't yet, it's going to start soon, that the enemy is going to come to try to take that seed from your life. And I'm telling you that not to make you fearful, because there's nothing to be afraid of as long as we have an understanding of what's happening. And so here's what happens is when that word of God gets deposited down into you, it says it's like a seed, right? And so when you plant a seed into the ground and you cover it with earth, there's no evidence that there's a seed in the ground. You can't see that there's a seed. You don't know that there's a seed. For all intents and purposes, that piece of ground looks exactly like it did before that seed was inserted into it. But underneath the surface, not visible, that seed is undergoing a transformation. It's becoming something that it wasn't. And it begins to germinate, and it begins to come out of its shell, and it begins to put out roots, and it begins to soak in the nutrients that are in the soil, and it begins to grow. And as it puts down a root system, once it gets a root system that's strong enough to sustain it, it begins to grow upward. And all of a sudden, one day, what was happening under the surface, invisible to the human eye, invisible to anybody that's looking, a shoot pops forth. And all of a sudden now there's evidence that something's happening right there where there wasn't before. And everybody can see it, including the enemy. And he will come after you in that stage as hard as he can to try to pluck out in its infancy what he can't destroy in its maturity.